Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, veuillez accueillir, please welcome Samarth and Ayaan Ismail.
We're pumped, not just for today, because you seem like an awesome crowd, but for life in general. It's literally the most exciting time in human history to be alive.
Think about this. Hundreds and thousands of years ago, we discovered fire. Fast forward tens and thousands of years later, we invented the wheel. And then tens and thousands of years after that, we invented irrigation, which is now the foundation of modern civilization.
And if we think about what's happened in the past 200 years alone, we invented things like planes, phones, computers, vaccines, the internet. But we're even more excited for what's going to happen in the next 10. Because now we have things like AI, blockchain, quantum computing, stem cells, alternative energy, you name it.
But as a society, we're spoiled. Like, let's look at our phones, for example. Every 2 to 3 years, we expect better camera quality, we expect better resolution, and it matches our expectations. Let's even look at our cars, for example. Every 2 to 3 years, we just expect them to be more sophisticated and safer, and they do.
But if we think about our healthcare system, it hasn't really changed in the past few years. Think about it. Have MRIs changed drastically in the past few years?
No.
Okay. Have vaccines changed drastically in the past few years?
No.
Okay. Set aside the technology for now. Let's look at the standard we meet for us being healthy. Think about it. We just expect to live in a world where we're healthier, right? We expect to live in a world that's disease-free. We expect to live much, much, much longer lives. But it's not happening.
And what's interesting is if we look at the statistics over the past few years, the amount of deaths in cancer rose in 2017 at 8 million to 2018 at 9.6 million. Set aside cancer, let's look at heart disease, for example. Over the past few years, we've seen an increase in the amount of people getting heart disease from 27% to 32%. And what blows our minds is that we're living in a society where we have gene editing, we have gene sequencing, and we're even working on developing on nanotechnology. But still, the number of deaths is increasing.
And it's really interesting to see that we have these really, really high expectations for technology. And we meet them, right? The next time Apple comes out with a new phone, it will be more disruptive. It will be more innovative. Like, it has to be. But why don't we apply that same principle of thinking of expectations to our own health?
Why can't every 2 to 3 years we just expect to get healthier?
And better and stronger and faster.
And even live longer.
And have a higher quality of life. And we say quality of life because it's true. Health condition is the #1 factor for having a high quality of life. Think about it. You could be the richest person in the world for all it matters. But if you're sitting in your deathbed coughing and wheezing, you would throw all the money you had out the window to cure yourself of the disease you had.
And so it's unequivocally clear that this is a problem we need to be focusing on. Especially if we envision a future where, and this might sound a little crazy, but we eradicate disease. All disease, and everywhere. And what's funny is that aging is technically a disease as well. Imagine being able to eradicate aging.
And thing is, we can figure this stuff out. It's possible. Like, humans are incredible people. We take it for granted, but we're literally the smartest species on the planet. Like, you ever think an ant, a koala, or even a chimpanzee would be able to do things like create planes, phones, computers, even set up conferences like this?
Definitely not. But if we want to achieve this ambitious goal of eradicating disease, we need to be taking a different approach to our health. Because let's just think back. When was the last time our system actually changed?
Never.
Right? It started in the 1300s with the Great Plague. That was the first major disease we actually experienced, and it wiped out 1/3 of Europe's population.
And at the time, we used all these herbs and plants to cure diseases. But then fast forward to today, now we have modern medicine, right? Drugs, radiation, surgery. But if we take a look at the fundamental approach we've been taking to our health, it's been the exact same since the 1300s.
We wait to get sick, then we go to the doctors, and then we maybe get cured. But why do we have to wait for the problem to come to us before doing anything?
It's like we're driving around our meat sacks, right? Only realizing that our brakes don't work after we get into a crash. Like, it's insane to even think that. We should just know that our brakes work before we even go out on the road. And thing is, for the common cold, maybe a little bruise here and there, it'll work. But what about for things like cancer, heart disease, stroke?
We have the data to show that this is a problem we need to be focusing on. But if we want to change something, we need to be taking a different approach to our health. We need to be doing the exact opposite of what we're doing today. So instead of waiting for diseases to come to us,
how about we eliminate the disease before it even occurs? And that's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to figure this out because to us, we've been fortunate enough to be exposed to all these exponential technologies and to learn enough about how the human body works thanks to a program called the Knowledge Society. And so once it finally clicked in our heads, we asked the question,
why don't we have a preventative system in place?
and can this even be done?
Do we have the tools?
We do. We have things like synthetic biology, nanotechnology, gene
Okay,
sequencing.
Do we have the resources?
We also do. We spend billions in cancer research only.
Do we even know enough about the human body?
We also do. Look. And so you see, right, well, he actually can't look because like the screen's up there, but you see, right now is the time in human history when we can take a new approach to solving these problems that would historically be impossible, right? Even after investing billions and billions of dollars.
The timing to create a preventative healthcare system is right now because we have the tools, we have the resources, we have the smart people that are willing to do this. And that's why we're here today to talk to you about.
How we can take this future of eradicating disease, all disease everywhere, and even aging as a whole, and turn it into a reality. And so with what Samarth's working on in classifying genetic diseases with artificial intelligence,
And with what Ayaan's working on in personalizing specific medications to genotypes in his research in metabolomics, we created Genis.
or in other words, what we're working on is the tech, or the how, for creating a healthcare system where we eradicate disease and aging as a whole.
But how?
Well, think about it. What happens when you walk into the doctors today, right? They check your eyes, ears, throat, mouth, and nose. Or in other words, what they're trying to do is understand you better. Thing is, we can't do the same thing they do today because right now we're looking to surface level. What we need to start doing is looking at disease on a small level, like really, 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 really small, because that's where disease starts from.
On top of that, we need to start looking at different biomarkers. For example, our family history, our diet, and different external factors that shape up our health.
So what you're saying we need to start looking at is a patient's genetics
Metabolomics.
and proteomics.
Yeah, and so our genetics is simply just the cookbook to our life. Metabolomics is the food we eat broken down into tiny, tiny molecules. And proteomics is just acids that are found within our body that we can use to analyze to see how different external factors affect our health.
And you know, we said right now is the time in human history to be alive.
Yeah,
Well, something that we actually couldn't do 10 years ago that we can do today is sequence all of this data from a patient for under $1,400. Like that's it. I can sequence your genetics, metabolomics, and proteomics for under $1,400. And to break it down for you, $1,400 is just you sacrificing your daily morning coffee at Starbucks for a year. That's it.
drink all the Tim Hortons you want, just don't drink any Starbucks. After we have these biomarkers, we need to figure out a way to integrate and analyze them. But we're not going to let humans do this because A, we're just prone to making mistakes, and B, there's over 3 million base pairs in our DNA alone. That can take over a decade to actually understand.
And so what we can actually do is just take our patient data and run it through an artificial intelligence model. What this basically does is look for specific patterns and trends and points out conclusions on illnesses that might occur in the future. And wait, how much does it cost?
$0.
Damn, it's free, simple, and codable.
But wait, we're only looking at one side of the coin, the technology or the how it works. What about the implementation?
Well, I might actually have something for that. And it comes all the way from Japan. In Japan, they've actually started to develop a culture around proactive healthcare. And patients are incentivized to go into the doctors when they're healthy instead of when they're sick. And doctors are incentivized to keep patients out of the office instead of getting paid for the amount of patients they take in, which is really, really cool.
Now, when we think about the future, we think about things like alternative energy resources, self-driving cars, a better education system, maybe even self-flying cars.
But if we think about the one thing that's missing from this exciting future, it's a world where disease isn't even a word.
And so we're super pumped to be working on this tool that can possibly help eradicate disease
All disease,
everywhere.
and even aging as a whole.
Thank you.
Thank you.